Let's just get a drink. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, bro. So, on behalf of Brisbane Bhakti Yoga Center, I'd like to welcome all of you again here for this Saturday Love Feast program. How many of you are here for the first time? Thank you for coming. Welcome. I can see devotees coming all the way from Gold Coast, from Brisbane, from Farm, Roji. Thank you for coming. She'll be next week giving class. Cute Hari Leela. Okay, so today we're going to discuss a little bit about the Maha-Mantra effect. There has been some studies done to see how this Maha-Mantra affects the activity or the response of the brain. But before we dive into that, I'd just like to do a little bit of crash course. Okay, it should work. There you go. Roji, I don't know why it keeps getting off.
There is one more mic.
Mic 1 it says. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so this is just an anatomy of some of you probably, so please excuse me if this repetition. Anything good you hear from this lecture is because of the mercy of all you devotees and my Guru Maharaj. Anything which you don't like is because of the blessing of my wife. No, I'm just kidding. It's all my fault. So you probably know, if you can't see, maybe you can come this side. I don't know if you can see the TV from there. I've got a pointer, but the thing is, it doesn't work on the TV. I didn't realize that. I checked at home with my projector, it was working, but here I can't. Interesting, huh? Anyway, you can read here. So we got these different parts of the brain. The frontal lobe, which it says problem solving, emotional traits, speaking. So in men, you have this frontal lobe, which is quite big because they are the fixers, right? They like to fix everything. And if you come here on the side, the blue part, that's the temporal lobe. You have understanding, language, behavior, memory. That's why in kids, this is all it's still, evolving because of the behavior. Ladies, memory is very strong. This temporal, the blue one. On the top, the yellow one, the parietal lobe. It's differentiating what is right, what is wrong, different body orientation, and so forth. One time my little boy said, "Dad, your left brain has nothing right and your right brain has nothing left." And I had to figure it out what he said. So my right brain has nothing left, which means it's empty, and my left brain, whatever little it has, it's not right. Then the back, the green one, is more for vision, color perception. Purple one in the back of the head here is for balance. It's more for fine movement and coordination, like automatic control, like driving, for example. And then you have the brainstem, the gray bits. That's your core functions of the body: breathing, digestion, and so forth. Now, if you look at this one, do you see any difference between the female and the male brain? All the same, right? Isn't it? But I'm going to put the next slide up. You can either shout, roll on the ground, whatever you want to do. This is actually the male and the female brain. Can anyone would like to say on this slide what's the difference between the two brains?
Sanatan was actually explaining this to me one time, and he said there's this male's brain has one box, and if you give them a problem, they take out that box, fix the problem, put them back in. Same problem given to a woman's brain. They will take that box out, and they'll take a few other boxes out, and everything is connected somehow. This problem will lead to the other problem leads to the other problem. Everything gets connected, and then...
It's good to hear this from a lady, right? Thank you, Mataji. That's exactly what this means. So if you see the male brain on the right, they have got these boxes, right? They have the box for the house, the car, the wife, children, work, maybe a bedroom for the mother-in-law, the basement, whatever it might be. And as you correctly said, if you give men something to do, they'll go into that, open that door of that box, go inside that box, do whatever they have to do, come out, shut the door, and while they're inside doing that, this is important. They make sure they don't touch the other box. Right? So they go in there, do their thing, and then come out. That's how the male brain works. Different boxes for different things. When you see the female brain on the other side, the ladies are already laughing.
It's multitasking.
Yes, that's why ladies can do multitasking.
We can't. There's a lot of studies have done that. We can't. But anyway.
And that's why they're able to run the house so nicely, right? Because the way their brain is connected. They've got this super computer in their brain, which is like a jumble, like coils of wire, if you like. So if you give them one task, what happens?
They do many other ones.
They do many other things. Good, Nama, because they can connect the dots very quickly. They're actually smarter. So sometimes they even think outside the box. Eh? So sometimes, say for example, if the man is stressed, the lady he'll go in these boxes, there's one very important box for the man. And it's called the nothing box. Right? And that's the box men want to spend the most of the time in. Like some of the ladies will agree. They want to just go into that box, free from everything, and just do nothing. Right? Just sit there and do nothing. That's their most favorite box. So if a man is stressed, is sitting in that box, and the lady would like to come into that box and say, hey, what's wrong with you? I mean, why are you so quiet? Can I come into that box? And the man will say, no, because the nothing will become something. You can't come into this box. Right? So if they're stressed, they say, okay, what are you thinking? Nothing. Can I do something for you? Nothing. He's sitting in the nothing box. He doesn't want anything, right? So that's why when we see the previous one, men like to fix things, but the ladies are more, they're more clever in doing things. One time, one of my friends, they visited India. They did all the parikramas, Govardhan parikrama, and then Vrindavan parikrama. I think they went back, on the way back they visited different places and came back home. So he was saying, when they were back home, the wife was discussing, and she was saying, I'll try. She was saying, honey, when we were in Vrindavan, it was so nice. When we were in Radhakund, there were so many devotees there. Do you remember? We went around different parikramas. When we went to Radhakund in Shankund, wow, that was awesome! And you remember when we went to Dubai? You took was so scared. And then while we went to Singapore, did so much shopping. And when we come back to this one, it's so depressing. Back to the same old thing. Family, kids, school, work, all these things. And the poor husband was very patiently listening. And he said, "Han, can we at least please finish the Govardhan Parikrama first?" So that's how the brain works for ladies and men. They can connect the dots everywhere. They've got this very, very powerful computer, if you like. And that's why the reason the lady's brain works like this is because they connect everything with emotion. So if you connect an event with an emotion, it burns into the memory for life. It gets stuck there. It also happens with men. Very little. But literally, they don't care. But the ladies do. So that's why they have this supercomputer, the brain. Now, what is the mind? I'd like to hear from the audience, this is an interactive session, right? I'd like to hear. Anyone would like to say, what's your understanding of the mind? Anyone? And I can assure one thing, all of your answers will be correct. So don't be scared to speak.
Bunch of thoughts.
Bunch of thoughts, good. Anyone else? Memories.
Restless. Mind is restless.
Mind is restless, that's one of the qualities, yeah? Subconscious. Yeah, so there are two types of mind, conscious and subconscious, correct?
Fast.
Huh?
Very fast.
Very fast, like Nama himself.
Makes desires.
Desires?
Decision.
Makes a decision, yeah, that's good. Anyone else?
Dwells in past or future, mostly.
Dwells in past
And future.
or future. Okay, that's a good one. Anyone else?
Powerhouse of the body.
Sorry?
Powerhouse of the body.
Powerhouse of the body. Okay, good. Anyone else?
It stays with you birth by birth.
Stays with you birth by birth. That's good.
Accepting and rejecting mind.
Yes, one of the features of the mind is to accept and to reject things. Okay? So I'm just going to show a very quick video. It's on the two types of mind, the conscious and the subconscious. See if you can grasp anything. If you can't, don't worry, okay? Can you all hear?
From the time we are born until we are about the age of 7, the subconscious mind is being programmed to live in the world based on and influenced by factors such as our environment, the people we are around, such as our family, and the emotions the environmental factors cause us to experience. Over time, our subconscious mind becomes a storehouse for these experiences or learned behaviors, like skills and beliefs, to form what we call our memory. It is a knowledge base that is home to everything we know. But we have to become aware of this knowledge before we can store it in our memory. And we do that with our conscious mind. All of these experiences we have experienced consciously with our conscious mind before being stored in the subconscious, and anytime we need to access or reference that information, we use the conscious mind. Here is another way to look at it. Your subconscious mind is like a book of you. Everything you have ever experienced, along with the thoughts and emotions that come with those experiences, have been written down in this book. The book by itself is stagnant. Without the thinking aspects of who you are to actively flip through the book and realize the information inside, the book has no use. What's a book without a reader? This is where the conscious mind comes into play. Your conscious mind is the author and the reader of your book. It is the one who becomes aware of experiences and stores the information learned from them inside of the book. It is also the one who references the information that is already inside to respond to experiences. It is the actively thinking part of your mind, while the subconscious is the storehouse for the information that gives rise to thought. In other words, it's like the conscious mind is the thinker, and the subconscious mind is the information that gives rise to thought. Without the conscious mind here to think these thoughts, the information stored in our subconscious is meaningless. And without the subconscious mind there to store the information, there are no thoughts for the conscious mind to think. Without the subconscious there to store information, there is only the conscious mind to be aware of the moment, but not to take anything away from it. When we are younger, we are much more active with our conscious mind as we try to fill up the memory space in our subconscious. But as we get older, we tend to rely more heavily on our subconscious program to operate in our daily lives. For example, when you learn to ride a bicycle for the first time, your conscious mind was extremely engaged in the activity because you were just learning how to do this. But now, when you go to hop on a bike, you do so with very little thought required. This is because when you learn how to ride for the first time, that information was stored in your subconscious, so that you don't have to relearn to ride a bike every time you get on one. Your conscious mind was responsible for learning that behavior or skill, and your subconscious mind was responsible for storing that learned knowledge. You have been subconsciously programmed to ride a bike, and you now operate on that program when you ride one. By operating on that program, you free up your conscious mind to focus on things like the surrounding traffic to further ensure your safety. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind are separate aspects of our mind, but they work together. These two powerful forces working together, and specifically the amount of information that can be stored in our subconscious mind, is what makes us humans such a powerful and advanced species.
Okay, so have I totally confused you? That's good. That was the purpose of this video. So basically what it means is, whatever activities we do, it just gets recorded like a book, which is your subconscious mind. And the conscious mind is the author and the reader of the book. So the conscious mind writes the book, which is the subconscious mind. And when you want to retrieve the information, it's again the conscious mind as the reader, in simple terms. Okay? So how the mind functions. So on the left hand side, don't worry about the right for now. We'll come. On the left hand side, we have these different senses which acquire different types. So we have hearing, you have the touch, the vision, taste and smell. And all that is fed into the mind. Right? And the mind, like Hari Lila, is very inquisitive. So someone said the function of the mind is to accept and reject things, right? So when the mind gets all this information fed into it, it has to make some decision. So it will accept things or reject things. Either it will say, oh, this is nice, this is not nice, this is nice, this is not nice. That's what the mind does. But sometimes the mind will also help will also need the help of the intelligence to understand why this is right and why this is not right. That's where the intelligence comes into play. In Bhagavad Gita, in 6.6 it says, if one is able to control the mind becomes your best of friends. If you can't control your mind, it's your worst enemy. We all know this, right? So, for example, Radhanath Swami gives a very nice example. And he gives this example of these two dogs, which is inside us. And he says these two dogs, one is a good dog and one is a bad dog. Right? And they both are barking for attention. So the bad dog is like lust, anger, greed. That's why if you feed the bad dog, you lag in devotional life, right? LAG, lust, anger, greed. But on the other side, the good dog is your empathy, your compassion, all the good qualities which we have, humility. So it's up to us. We have a choice whether we feed the bad dog or the good dog. If we feed the bad dog, it will eat and it will become more aggressive and it will bark more. Sorry to wake you up. And if you feed the good dog, then it will also bark, it will be happy and say, in a nice way, right? Can you bark like a good dog? Was that a cry? Thank you, no. So it depends on us, which dog we're feeding, right? If you feed the good dog, good. If you're not, it's our choice. So when the soul comes, okay, before that, the symptom of the soul is consciousness. We all know that, right? So when the soul descends, it's covered by two bodies, the subtle body and the gross body. And the first covering of the soul is, can anyone guess? It's on the screen, but you have to figure it out. So out of the two bodies, all these things that's written from here to here, what do you think is the first covering of the soul? Yep. What part of subtle body? Now, what's the first covering of the soul? Ego. Who said ego? Prabhu, you said ego? Thank you very much. Your ego must be very big. No, I'm just kidding. So the first thing is ego, right? Suppose this is the soul, the first covering is ego. That's why it's very difficult to get rid of the ego. Because you have ego, then on top of it's the mind, then on top of it is the intelligence, right? And then you have the gross bodies, right? Ether, fire, water, like that, and then the earth. So can you imagine how difficult it is for the ego to free itself when it's closest to the soul and it's covered by so many layers, isn't it? Sometimes ego is not so bad, but if you have false ego, the pride thing, that's the bad part. Okay? So what happens at death? The soul carries the consciousness and subtle body to the next destination. Right? So the material body stays back, either cremated or whatever the ceremony is, and the soul carries the consciousness and the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego to the next destination. Now, how does the mind function? This is a little bit technical, so if you pay attention, you'll get this in one go. So we have the soul, right? We all know. But do we have soul now? Yes. Otherwise, we won't be here. We have the soul. Symptom of the soul is the consciousness, right? But for the consciousness to travel from the soul to all parts of the body, you need the interface of the mind, right? So what the mind does, it acts as an interface. It takes the consciousness from the soul to the brain to be distributed to all parts of the body. Say, for example, if you have a computer, you're using it. It has got the hardware, some software or the apps operating it, and then you have the end user, right? So sometimes the operating system you might not be able to see, but it's working. How do you know it's working? If you want to print something, it prints, right? So the end user knows, hey, this system is working. So it's a matter of function, not structure. So similarly, we have the body, the gross body, which is the structure, which you can see, the physicality, whereas the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, is based on the function. Does it make sense? Good, you're a good, intelligent audience. So if you can keep that in mind, that's the simplest way to understand this. So when we do bhakti, then this is what happens. Our intelligence gets sharpened, our mind purified, consciousness cleansed, and our false ego, right? This is one of my favorite slides from Bhagavad Gita. Would anyone like to comment on this? It's to do with the senses, the mind, and the intelligence and the soul. Yes, Mataji?
The mind is like wild horses, and you cannot control the mind unless you fix your mind. Fix your way to fix it.
Yes, very nice, thank you. So you can see these horses. See the five senses? Can you see here? Yeah. So our eyes want to see whatever, smell, ears want to hear so many different types of music. You see all these kids with these headphones, even if you shout at them, they don't hear. Right? And the tongue wants to eat anything possible. But the Bhagavad says, if somebody eats anything without discrimination, your next life will be like a hog, right? There are other descriptions like that. So, what do you think will happen if the driver lets go loose of the reins? Where will the horses end up? Anywhere and everywhere. Do you think the passenger will reach the destination? No. What do you have to do for the passenger to reach the destination? You have to control the ropes, right? So if you control the senses, the horses represent the senses, the rein represents the mind, the driver represents the intelligence, and the passenger represents the soul. Good. So when the information is fed into the senses, either they'll accept it or reject it, based on their. And if they need the help of the intelligence, the intelligence will say why you should accept this and why you should reject this. It gives reasoning behind things. And then when the intelligence is strong enough, they can control the mind, the senses is controlled, then the destination is reached. Does it make sense? So far so good? Yes. Stay with me. The mantra, here we go. Right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. One more time, please. Thank you. That was lovely. So the mantra or the sound. So sound has effect on the different. I just put this sentence here just out of interest. If people are interested, how the body reacts to different sound is based on the different chakras or energies in the body. The different, so many chakras or energy vibrations in the body, but the researchers say there are 7 main chakras which align in the region of the spine, from the head to the base of the spine. If you're doing yoga, different yoga practices, you know all these things. And they're good sound and they're bad sound as well. So there was a research or experiment done where I think there were 10 and 12 employees in an office, and what they did, they put 2 plants in a big jar. The plants were inside, but the top was open. So the employees were asked, when they came to the office in the morning, you say some good words to one plant, and then you walk, and then you say some bad words to the next plant. And they did this only for 1 week. Can you guess what the results would be? The effect on the plants? The good plant became healthier and was growing nicely. And the other plant, the second plant, was dwindling. So that proved that you have good and bad sound, and what effect does it have? Imagine on the plants. I mean, what about us? That was just a simple experiment. Maha-Mantra origin. We know so many mantras in Vedic literature, but specifically this Maha-Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So one time Narad Muni, he made a tour of earth, and he went to his father. Who is Narad Muni's father? Brahma. And he said, "Hi Dad." Did he say like that? What do you think he said?
He
Offered obeisances and said, "Pitashri." Do we say that to our dads now? No. Pranam Pitashri. And Pitashri said, "Krishna Mati Rahu," or "Krishna Mati Rastu," will bless you. And they become Krishna conscious, stay Krishna conscious. And he said, "I'm so, stressed out that I'm so unhappy that I see these people of this material world How will they get delivered in Kali Yuga? They're so engrossed in so many things. And what did Brahma reply? Hey dude, don't worry. No, he said, my dear son Narad, they'll chant some mantras and they'll be fine. Don't worry. And he said, Dad, what mantras? There's so many mantras in there. What mantras will I chant? And Brahmaji said, Iti so dakshnam nam kalikal masnasnam natarpar upaya sarva vedeshu dishate. This 16th word, Maha-Mantra, if anybody chants in Kali Yuga, they'll be free from all sinful reactions. If you look in all the Vedas, there's no better solution for the people of Kali Yuga. And Narad was very happy. He said, oh, this is like a walk in the park, right? Just chant this mantra. Don't have to worry about big yagyas, elaborate deity worship, nothing. Just chant this mantra, it'll be fine. So then, when the mantras became, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, it became more and more prominent, especially in the Western world, then the other people started to take note of it, right? And they said, let's do some research on these mantras. Does it really work? So this was one of the first research which was done by Moscow Institute of Biological Fields. It was led by A.G. Speking in 1982. So there were large number of people, 2 groups. So one group was repeating some random sound. The second group was repeating the Maha-Mantra. They did this for 3 days, 30-minute session per day. Results were medically assessed with all the equipment. The random sound people became depressed. Psyche became sluggish, and a state of apathy and prostration emerged. Right? So they were not very enlivened. The ones who were chanting the Maha-Mantra, all the functions were rejuvenated, the brain, respiratory, cardiovascular systems improved. There was improvement in the mood, memory, sharpness of perception, and reality. Now this is one interesting find. They did. Normally the 2 hemispheres of the brain, they don't normally work in synchronization. But in this study they found, in some of the participants, they were able to synchronize, the hemispheres of the brain, which is a rare find. So you can see the difference between, can't use the pointer, Maha-Mantra, the one who were chanting the Maha-Mantra, how everything was elevated, and the one who were not chanting, they're chanting the other mantra, they had a negative effect. So this was one research that was done in Russia. This second research was done in USA, Florida State University, the research led by David Wolf in 1996. So here there were 3 groups. Again, the first group was given the Maha-Mantra, second group another mantra, and third group no mantra. And then they chanted 20 minutes a day, again for 1 month. So the results were medically assessed. The first group, level of stress decreased by 10% and depression by 20%. Level of optimism increased by 10% in psychological tests. Were in high spirits, self-esteem improved, relationships harmonized. That's a big one. Fears disappeared. Second and third group, there was not much effect. So you can see by these researchers, they're trying to prove the effect of the Maha-Mantra when they chant. Following so far? Yep. Here comes the mind one. You ready for it? Yes. Let's do it. Before that, there's one more. So this one, Alexander Kamimov, he's a philosopher and Orientalist. I think he's from Russia. So he said the repetition of Maha-Mantra improves activity of brain and consciousness, and people find solutions outside the box. This is interesting, right? Normally we try to find solution inside the box, like the mild brain. But this is outside the box. Experience contact with higher reality and experience, they were transcendently, like they were in bliss, enjoy. Reveal dormant talents in a person and radically change his consciousness and fate. The result of mantra repetition is more pronounced if one focuses on its meaning. That was his finding. Right? If you focus on the chanting, then the result is more pronounced. And we know that the meaning of Maha-Mantra chanting is, please engage me in your service. Right? Now, this is the one I really want to talk about, so I'll need your 100% attention if you can, please. So, Dr. Vivek Boluja, Vinay Gaurachandra Prabhu, is a disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, and he's been doing all these neuro studies for a while. Now, in 2016, he decided to do some study on himself, which was very interesting, at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. So using all this magnetic electrogram, a neuroimaging technique to map brain activity, he observed the effects of changing Maha-Mantra on the brain. The results were just amazing. You ready for it?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I think only 5 of you are ready. Are you ready?
Yes.
That's better. Okay. So here, you can see that the brain is at rest. So if the brain is at rest, there should be no activity in the brain. Right? That means the brain is at rest. But can you see those red and green signals?
Yes.
Red and green signals. So the green signals mean the brain is receiving information, right? And the red signals mean the brain is responding to those signals. So this is supposed to be a brain at rest, but it's actually not. Let's see the effect after he chants some mantra. So after chanting the Panchtattva mantra 4 rounds and then 30 minutes of Hare Krishna Maha-Mantra, can you see a decrease in the red and green signals? Yes. Right? So if you can note that this decreased activation in the brain and then more rest than in the resting phase. Right? So if you here see, that's the resting phase, there's so much red and green signals going. But after chanting the Panchtattva and the Maha-Mantras, the brain is really at calm, is at ease. All good so far?
Yes.
Good. This is another one where he uses different amplitudes to map the brain activity, right? So during chanting, so this is on the left side, there's no chanting. You can see the amplitudes are quite spiky, are high. But on this side, you can see the amplitudes are lower, especially in the front and the mid zones. Can you see that? So the image on the left is before meditation and the one on the right is after meditation. So you can see after chanting, the brain activity or the amplitudes are lower. But interesting thing is, at the back of the brain, which is the cerebellum part, the amplitudes were a bit higher. Can anyone guess why? We discussed the function of the cerebellum. So it's more to do with automation. So sometimes when you chant, the front and the middle part of the brain, the amplitude is gone because the brain is coming at peace. But when you're from chanting, when you turn into the automation mode, the back part of the brain, the cerebellum kicks in more. It's just like driving, Sometimes you have to not pay too much attention while driving, but you are still driving. So that's what's happening here. So just to recap, this is the brain without chanting. You can see the activities, red and green. This is after chanting. The red and green signals are reduced, and this is the same but different form of the image. So what he was saying, that the data shows that by chanting we can calm the brain activity. So these days, the doctors mostly prescribe anti-epileptic medication to treat patients with anxiety, mental disorders, schizophrenia, things like that. And voluntarily decreasing the brain activity is unheard of. So the research shows that same therapeutic effects of medication can be created by chanting the Maha-Mantra. This is exciting news, right? We're getting somewhere. So this research is being conducted on a bigger scale, and surveys done of initiated devotees who have been chanting for a while, like 15, 20, 30 years. So the research is still going. What effect chanting has on depression, anxiety, addiction, mood, emotions, there's a whole list of questions in there. if you want to help Prabhuji with the survey, you can take a photo of this slide. There is a link there. And when you finish the survey, in the end, it will give you the results immediately. So you can see, actually, all these things which are discussed, for people who have been chanting for how long, and then what effect it has on their body and responding to the Maha-Mantra chanting. So if you want to help Prabhuji, you can just take a picture of this slide and just do it it just only takes few minutes, 5-6 minutes, a short survey. So big data metrics from the research will be used to show the medical institutions the efficacy of chanting and to try therapeutic chanting with the patients in the hospital. For ISKCON to be able to really prescribe this Maha-Mantra, right, the data needs to be collected in an organized fashion, so it will not be seen as a pseudo-scientific process. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted. If you remember our dear devotee, His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he was a scientist, and he used to go and visit and sit in the panels of all these top scientists, and he'll present Krishna consciousness in such a scientific way, and they'll be very impressed. Now we have upcoming generation of devotees who are also doing the same. So hopefully one day we'll be able to prescribe the Hare Krishna Maha-Mantra to treat people with mental disorders. The studies are going on. So what does mantra mean? Ma means mind and tra means to deliver, yeah. To deliver from what? From spouse? No, that's not a good thing. From all this material contamination, right? The kachra bolte, all this material contamination we have, the mantra actually delivers someone. Yes, Harilina. And then we have had as the purification of the heart from harmful aspirations. So we remember the two dogs, the good dog and the bad dog. Yeah. So which dog are you going to feed? If you feed the bad dog, it might look after the property. Yeah? No? We feed the good dog, right? And then how we saw that slide, the horses one, how the senses can be kept with the help of the mind and the intelligence, right? If you can't remember anything tonight, just remember that slide with the horses. I can assure you, your coming here tonight will be successful. And then release from the effects of negative karma, release from the cycle of birth and death. How many of you want to make this your last life? Very nice. Some of us still want to come back. It's our choice. That's why we are here in the first place. Right? So, there are some students here, right? What will happen if you don't study for the whole year and you sit the exam in the end? You're going to fail the exam. Why? Because you didn't prepare. Right? You didn't prepare for the exam. But if you had prepared the whole year, what will happen? You'll pass with flying colors, like A+++++++++. Right? That's flying colors. So, it's similar to our life. You just have to reflect on ourselves, right? So if you don't prepare for the whole life, what's the final test we have to sit or lie? The moment of death. Yes. So Arjuna says, Chanchalami Mana Krishna, this mind is got so many qualities. No, it's restless, turbulent, strong, blah blah blah. How do we control this? And Krishna just answers in 2 words. Does anyone remember what the 2 words Krishna says? Yes. Abhyas Yogana Yukta. It says by suitable practice and detachment. So what's the suitable practice? That's the process of bhakti. Right? And if you practice bhakti throughout this whole life, one time, this is a very touching statement from Srila Prabhupada. one time, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada that what if we do devotional service our whole lives? And how do we know that we're going back to Godhead? And Srila Prabhupada looked at him and he said, if you are a sincere devotee for your whole life serving the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at the end of your life, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will physically and personally come and he'll make sure that he makes the arrangements and put you on that flower airplane to take you back home, back to Godhead. And the devotee was just blown away and said, wow, we just have to be sincere in our service, you know. So we do our best and leave to Krishna the rest. We do our best, leave to Krishna the rest, right? And before we become Krishna conscious, there's another step we have to be. We have to be conscious. Unless we are conscious of our surroundings, who we are dealing with, you know, our colleagues, peers at home, wherever, Krishna consciousness is too far away. So first, please be conscious, and then there's a high chance that we can become Krishna conscious in this life. And then you can attain pure love of God. And how do we know this thing is working? We have heard so many times from previous acharyas, gurus, sadhus, sas, but the taste of the pudding is in the eating. Unless you taste it, unless you eat it yourself, you won't be able to share the taste with others. So those who are sharing it, they are actually enjoying the pudding. They say, hey man, this is great. Want a piece? Try it. So I'm just, a few minutes over time. This is the last slide. Pujariji, please, just 2 minutes. We want to hear directly from Srila Prabhupada's mouth, right? And before I play this, we must always remember and be grateful to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has broken the storehouse of what? Of love of Krishna. Right? No one has ever done that. Can you imagine? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done this. And what Srila Prabhupada has done, he has taken that storehouse of love from India to Brisbane. Right? Not only Brisbane, he has taken it to all corners of the world, isn't it? How magnanimous is Srila Prabhupada's tradition? If you think for a moment. If Srila Prabhupada wasn't here, we wouldn't be sitting here, right? Yadi Prabhupada na hoito, what would have become of us? Where would we be tonight? We don't know. So this cycle of birth and death, Prabhupada says, this human form of life is very rare. Make the best of it. See, the cycle goes like this. 8,400,000 species. We have been going round and round. But once you get the human form of life, you're on the top. And if you misuse it, what happens?
You get a lower animal.
You slip back into the cycle. And because we have been into this cycle so many times, but why don't we remember? Because our body changes, right? Every moment our body changes, so we don't remember. If someone asks you, hey, what did you do 3 Saturdays ago? You have to think really hard, right? What did you do 3 weeks ago? Hari Leela, I'm gonna employ you in a few years' time to be my tech assistant. She's trying her best. Okay, let's hear Srila Prabhupada.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, simply by chanting, we'll get all success of life. It is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's blessing. Simply chanting, one gets the highest perfection. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's blessing and gift. So we should be very careful and follow the regulative principle. Then automatically it will be perfect. There is no doubt about it. If we actually chant the Krishna Mantra properly, without any offense, then one's chanting is sufficient to make you free from the reaction of all sinful life. We chant according to the principle that the mantra will keep you always in touch with the Supreme personality of God. If you neglect Krishna, still there is success and things of mind. And in turn, you can live with full confidence and Krishna. Then your success in this life is guaranteed.
So what did Srila Prabhupada say in the end? How is the success guaranteed? Chanting attentively and following the rules and regulations of devotional service. There's so many rules and regulations, but Srila Prabhupada has narrowed it down. Just follow this 4 by 6 principles, chant your Maha-Mantra properly, and then you'll go back home, back to Godhead. He's guaranteed that. Does anyone in this room have a doubt what Prabhupada said? That we have to become serious with our lives. Right? One time, my Guru Maharaj, Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj, was serving Srila Prabhupada. He was so busy doing so many things in Mayapur when they were constructing. And sometimes, he'll sit in Bhagavatam class, try to chant, and he'll doze off. And Prabhupada said, stay awake. Then when the class finished, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I have to do so much service, and I have to do this, and I'm just finding it difficult to find time to chant. And Prabhupada says, just find time. You have to find time to chant. He said, where, Srila Prabhupada, how can I find time? And Srila Prabhupada just looked at him and he said, it requires practice. And my Guru Maharaj got the message. So, same thing Krishna says, Abhyas Yogena, it requires practice. Little bit of practice. Initially it may be a bit of challenging, but in the association of devotees are more merciful than Krishna. So if you associate, will be good. Right? I'll just like to finish here with one little example quickly. This is the last one, promise. So, I forget where it is, but there is a forest of redwood trees. Does anyone know where they grow? Redwood trees. Is it in California? I think so. So Radhanath Maharaj was saying that one time he went to that forest and there was a tourist guide who was talking about a group of people. So Maharaj said, let me just stay back and listen to what he has to say. And he was saying these redwood trees, they are so big trunks and they grow, but their roots are not very deep. Instead of going deep, they go wide, they go sideways. And they are, storms, cyclones, things like that, they're still standing, smiling. Normally for a tree to stand, the roots need to be deep, not wide or shallow. And the little ones which grow in between the big trees, they're smiling as well. And they're saying, oh, I'm protected by my big, parents, uncles and aunts. And then the tour guide was saying, the reason they don't fall is because all their roots are intertwined with each other. So they support each other. So even the big cyclones, they don't fall. Other trees fall, they're still standing. And the message Maharaj got from that was, the similar thing applies to us in devotional service. Right? If we stay connected as a community, if we stay connected with devotees all the time, our roots will really be strong. No matter what kind of material cyclone we have to face, we'll still stand strong. Right? And that way, and if you chant properly, Prabhupada says, your life will be successful. So thank you very much. I think it's time for Aarti now. I'm not sure if we have time for questions. If somebody has any questions, please come and see me later. I'll be here around, we can have a chat. Don't keep the lordships waiting for too long. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Everyone put your hands in there and say, Gauranga! 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 Thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Ramanuja Prabhu ki
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice. I missed half of it.
That's okay. You know.